Join me today as we step back in time to create a magical vintage Christmas tree, complete with shiny bright ornaments, glistening tinsel, large light bulbs, a train set, a little village, and the warmth of Christmas past. Hey everyone, Joe here. Thanks so much for stopping by today in my continuation of my Christmas 2025 series. 'Twas the night before Christmas, and I'm still here in the dining room working on my retro stuff that I've been putting in this room. I've been having a really good time. It's been a bear, but I've been having a really good time doing it. You can see the china hutch that I did behind me. I did the sidebar over there. I did the server. I did the table. And today I'm creating a vintage Christmas tree complete with old-fashioned shiny bright ornaments that now are becoming popular once again. But you got to pay the price tag if you want shiny bright ornaments now. You can find them. Shiny Brite is no longer in business, I believe, but people are selling them. So if you really love them, you can look online, even on Facebook Marketplace, and you'll be able to locate some of them. In fact, there's one piece that's missing in mine. I want the point for the top of the tree, and I cannot find mine. I don't know what happened to it. It probably broke or got misplaced somewhere in moving, but I don't have it, and that's what I want on top of the tree because that's what we always had on top of the tree. So anyway, today is filled with me doing that tree, and I also give you a little bit of insight behind the Shiny Brites and some other little things. So I hope you will enjoy this video. Please give me a thumbs up if you like it. Please drop me a comment, 7 words or more. That's what YouTube counts. And a thumbs up will really help my video get out there for other people to see, to enjoy. So, and don't forget, put your notification bell on and subscribe because you don't want to miss any of my Christmas stuff. I still have so much to do, and my time is running out. All right, everybody, sit back, and I hope you enjoy. Let me know what you think. Okay, we're going to use this end table to put the tree on because many vintage trees used to be on tabletops. I needed the top to be a little bit bigger, so I cut a round of plywood that sits on top of the table. Even this tree is vintage. It's about 30 years old. Next, I put 600 multicolor lights on, and I put on some fake C9 bulbs. These are LED, and they do not get hot. All right, so I put the tree up on the table, and I put the train tracks around, and immediately it brought back pictures in my mind of home. You know, before we got a bigger tree, we lived in an apartment, so we always had a tree on a tabletop, but most people did have trees on tabletops. I remember visiting a lot of my friends, and that's what you would see. Granted, a lot of my friends had apartments, but that's what you used to see. But I think it was more common, you know, back late 50s, early 60s, up to mid 60s, I think you would see this a lot. So like I said, it was very reminiscent of that. Now what I'm going to do is, I think I'm going to put a few little houses down there just to make a little scene. And I'm going to use these. These are Mary Ann's. They are Yuletide 1987. So they are considered in the vintage category, believe it or not. And they're really, really cute. They are ceramic, but they have a lot of details on them. I was looking for we had this other bunch of houses, you know, the putz houses that I showed you in the china hutch were the bigger ones. And then for a while they were making smaller ones. I don't know if they were putz, I really don't know the name. And I had them, and Mary Ann had them as well. And I just don't know where they are. I can't locate that box for some reason. But anyway, I found these, and I think these are going to be cute. They'll be very fitting under there. So I'm going to put those under there, and of course some greenery. So a great thing about doing this retro vintage room this year is it brings back a lot of past memories and Christmas memories. Not that we forget them, because me and Marianne talk about them all the time every year. But this year, what I'm doing is in this room is I'm using a lot of the vintage stuff and I'm putting it all together. And one of the things that I'm so excited about putting out is one of my Lionel set trains. This is a steam engine, and for those of you who remember these, you used to put the little pill in the front over here, and then if you would press this little switch right here, it would make smoke as it was going around the track. So I just wanted to tell you a quick story about these. These were actually my cousin's trains. And trains were important in my family because when my grandparents came from Italy, they first went to Hell's Kitchen, and my grandmother had 10 children there, only 5 of which survived to adulthood. But after that, they moved to New Jersey. When they moved to New Jersey, my grandfather worked on the railroad tracks on the Hudson River. And subsequently after that, two of my uncles also worked down on the train tracks. So it was an important thing. So my uncle had bought these for his son, and when he turned 14 years old, he gave us these trains because he bought his son a really big train set, also Lionel, that weigh a ton. And they have all these, cars that they have a cattle car that the cattle come off and on, a barrel car that the barrels come off and on, a log car, and a bunch of other things. They're unbelievable, and I've inherited those as well. I have those. But what the sad part of the story was when my cousin was 17 years old, he was a senior in high school, he decided to also do work part-time on the waterfront on the train tracks as well. He was going to graduate high school that June, and he was going to go to the Army. But what happened was there was a tremendous fire down on the train tracks because there were also big oil tanks down there. So what happened was the fire had started. There was a lot of explosions, and a lot of the guys were jumping into the river because that was the only way to get out of where they were. My cousin was a really strong swimmer. He used to swim across the Hudson to Manhattan, back and forth, and so he thought that he was, really strong. So one of my uncles was throwing the rope into the water to pull the guys around to the other side so that they could get out of the water and into safety. But because my cousin was a really strong swimmer, he kept giving the rope to the other guys as they were coming in. And then he had told one of them that he was going to swim out into the river and come around the pier and, meet them on the other side. What unfortunately was he never made it to the other side because his lungs got seared from the heat in the water and the smoke. So they finally recovered his body about a week later, and he was buried on his 18th birthday, which is absolutely traumatizing to the entire family. I don't think my father ever really recovered from that. But anyway, what happened was his father decided to give me those new trains, those diesel trains. And when they picked up the engine to hand me the engine, it wasn't hooked up to anything, and the engine just did like that. So every time I look at those trains, I remember that night sitting in my uncle's house on the floor looking at the trains, excited and then really, really sad at the same time. So like I said, these trains have a lot of meaning, and unfortunately, I just hooked up the transformer and it's not working. So I have to get it serviced. But even if I don't get it serviced, I really don't care because Marianne and I get to look at these beautiful trains. And I just said to her, lift this up, Mary. See, what do you think of this? And she's going, oh my God, it's like 10 pounds. It is really heavy. They do not make anything like this anymore. Probably, it would cost $10,000 for this one piece of train. So I'm going to put these around my vintage tree over there, and we are both going to enjoy looking at it, thinking about our childhood. Okay, so let me set it up. And there she is on the track. Okay, now it's time to decorate the tree. Okay, so the next part of the vintage tree is putting the ornaments on, and we're gonna put only Shiny Brites on this tree. And I don't know if, some people are not familiar with the Shiny Brites. These were the ornaments of, these are the ornaments that people had in the, I guess in the 50s and 60s and into the 70s as well. It's what most people, if not all people, had on their trees. And we have a collection from both Mary Ann's family and from my family. And I just wanted to show you a couple. Now, Mary Ann's grandfather was very progressive and very fashion forward for the time that he lived in. And they had, Mary Ann's grandmother and grandfather had one of those silver trees that was, that you see now. It's very retro to see that. And some people still put them up. It was all silver, and it had a color wheel that would turn, and he had a monochromatic format of ornaments on it, and he had these Shiny Brites on the entire tree. So luckily, we have a lot of these. So I used them as a filler on the 12-foot tree, and I put a lot on this tree. I still have a lot left over that I can put on the main tree, which I'm really happy about. And then, as well as Mary Ann's parents had Shiny Brites as well. And you know how I can tell Mary Ann's? Because Mary Ann's father actually constructed the hooks out of copper wire. So, and the copper wire is still on those. So we know which ones are the Shiny Brites from Mary Ann's mother and father. Then my father was a policeman in our town. And unbelievable as it sounds, the Shiny Brite factory was in our town. So every year, the Shiny Brite factory would give each police officer a dozen ornaments, a dozen balls. Of course, my father every year bought 12 dozen. And we had a lot of them. And these, you see these are the ones that I think everybody knows as the Shiny Brite. They have this one has Merry Christmas on it. This one has the shooting star with the moon and so on, and the planets. Hold on. And this one has the coach with the horses pulling right here. A lot of blues. They did a lot of blue, gold, pink, and so on. And of course now they have a patina. They were really, really shiny when we first got them. Now they're just, they're getting a little bit worn, but that's the beauty of them. You can find these online. They are crazy. The prices are crazy what people want for a dozen of these Shiny Brites. Now what happened is we had so many of them because, like I said, my father used to get 12 dozen every year. And we actually had them in the basement. And for those of you that know me, you know that we lived in a two-family. My grandmother lived on the first floor, and we lived upstairs. And we used to keep a lot of our stuff in the basement. Well, my grandmother used to like to give them out as presents. Every time somebody would come to visit, we would be looking out the window, and we would see a box of Shiny Brites underneath their arm as they were leaving. So unfortunately, we lost a lot of them because she did that for many, many years, giving out those Shiny Brites as, a party favor when people were leaving. So we're lucky we still have some of them. And so you're going to see me put them on this tree. I'm going to load them on the tree as much as I can. And then I'm going to finish the tree off with, you guessed it, tinsel. All right, so let me show you what the tree looks like with the Shiny Brites on it. All right, I don't want to ruin the end for you, so I'm just going to show you a little piece of the tree right now. The lights aren't on, and once I put the tinsel on, then I'll show you the whole thing. Yes, I know, one strand at a time. I know. Thanks for stopping by today. Take care, everybody. I'll be seeing you really soon. Bye-bye.